FPUC is heating up. The fourth stimulus package is heating up, and there's a new push to put FPUC retro in it to pay that unpaid FPUC from July to December of last year. But what is FPUC retro? What is FPUC? What's UI and what's PUA? In this throwback video, I explain FPUC, FPUC retro, certifying for benefits, and increasing your unemployment benefits. Enjoy this overnight LALATE video about FPUC. The Republican leadership is set to debut their enhanced unemployment benefits program in their second stimulating bill. Enhanced, stimulating. Two things the Temple of Doom would never know about. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE. Hope you're good and safe. This is Afternoon to LALATE, part of our 2-hour program and block every afternoon starting at 3:30 with a check, then hazard pay, then FPUC, and then rent. This is the video you need to watch if you have questions about unemployment benefits and if you need something else enhanced. It is a big day about FPUC, UI, PUA, LWA, and I'm going to be answering your questions right here, right now. Afternoons LA is part of the 3.5-hour programming schedule every day on LALATE. You know, of all the questions I get every single day, the most questions I get, literally to the T, are about employment questions, UI, PUA, FPUC, LWA, and yet I answer them in the video, and for some reason you're not watching this video. So please watch this video because I try to answer everything for you. First, UI and PUA. UI and PUA, you can still get on. They are still open. You need to ensure that when you apply that you're doing the right one in the right place and you know where to apply. First, you apply on your state's unemployment website. That's where you go to get them. Second, UI is for people who were employees that were laid off, and PUA is for people who were independent contractors. Now, what you need to understand is that for purposes of COVID-19, PUA does not require you to be fired. Does not require you to be fired. There are incredible eligibility criteria, which I've been detailing since the very first day of this channel on April 25th for PUA. One of them is you couldn't reach your place of work. Let's say the place was shut down due to a lockdown. Couldn't reach it because you had COVID or because a family member of yours had COVID. And finally, the one that really triggers the qualification for most viewers for PUA is that you simply couldn't work the full number of hours you normally would work. As you see, it does not require unemployment. It doesn't require you to be fired. It doesn't require you to be laid off. It is simply that you just don't get as many hours as you would normally get as a full-time person. And because of COVID-19, your number of hours has been reduced. To understand the difference between the two items is very critical. UI and PUA are not the same. You cannot go from PUA to UI. You cannot go from UI to PUA. And yet some people still think this is the case. You can't. Now, there have been some strange, rare circumstances that I've heard in some states where they're telling you to switch. I can't vouch for that. And I certainly know that earlier on when I was doing these videos and I was reading your questions and answering your comments, I saw that in some states for UI and PUA, they were telling you to go to the other one because you weren't this to go to the other one. The most common example was for Lyft and Uber drivers who are clearly PUA. Those states didn't want to treat you as PUA. They wanted to treat you as UI, told you to switch over. Now, for purposes of PUA, you must apply for UI first and get a denial before you get PUA. That's the way the law is structured, and that's why states require you to apply for UI first to get a denial before you get PUA. UI, again, is for people who are employees, W-2. PUA is for people who are self-employed or independent contractors. And there you go. Now, one of the very first questions I would have on this channel back on April 25th is if you had 2 gigs, 2 jobs. One was a UI job and one was a PUA job, and they both were impacted by COVID-19, which one applies? That is ultimately your decision. You may look at it a financial situation to determine which qualifies for the most level of benefits, and that is the next one to do. What you then do is you go into your state's unemployment website. If you're PUA, you have to apply for UI first and get a denial before you do PUA. But then you go for UI and PUA. Once you're in the website, it's important to listen to this information. Don't mess it up. You know what I'm about to say. Date of impact. If you were impacted by COVID-19 on March 20th, you list March 20th. Don't list September 9th because you have lost all those weeks of benefits. The way CARES Act 1 works is it pays benefits from March to July to late July. It still pays those weeks if those are the weeks that you're impacted by COVID-19. So the fact that we're sitting here in September doesn't mean you can't go get CARES Act 1 money. You just have to make sure you do the application correctly. And so when you go into the system and you go answer the questions, you need to make sure you follow the following items. First, you have to do the eligibility. You have to get into the system and be eligible. And to be eligible, you need to understand certain words. If you're a PUA person, you never ever answer a single word as to employment. You just don't do that. PUA words don't concern employment. You are not an employee. You are not an employee, and you're not an you don't have an employer, and you don't have employment, because that is a UI question. They don't care that you're employed by your loan out LLC company. They consider that as self-employed. So don't use the word employment. So if any questions like, who was your last employer? It's NA or none. What was your last employment? NA or none. That's the way you answer for purposes of PUA. So then you go through the system, you get certified, you get approved, and then you're done. And then you're ready to start what's basically the next step. And the next step is to understand you have to certify for your weekly benefits. And your weekly benefits start with the first week, and you have to do each week at a time. I had a viewer when this channel first started, and he didn't know you had to certify for benefits. He's like, okay, I've been approved for PUA. How come I haven't seen any money? Did you certify for benefits? He's like, what's certified for benefits? It means you need to go in and answer a series of questions for each week. The questions are the same. And when you answer the questions, you need to answer the following two questions correctly. Watch and listen to this one very carefully. First, had you been offered a job, would you have been willing to accept it? Answer yes. If you had been offered a job, would you have been able to do the job? Answer yes. The first question is a question about mental state. It's asking, if you're offered a job, are you mentally willing to take something? Yeah, sure, I'd absolutely want to work. If the answer is no, I don't want to work, then they're going to deny your week of benefits, because this is a person who doesn't want to work. That's what the question's asking. The second question was asking about physicality. It's saying, if you're offered a job, would you have been able to work? I mean, are you physically able to work? Yeah, of course. If the answer is no, they're going to presume something has happened, like you're injured, you don't have use of your legs, you don't have use of your arms, you're physically unable to do the job. And so by answering that question that way, you will get a denial. So then you go through the individual weeks and you certify for each of the weeks. Each time it's going to ask you whether you want to take out for taxes or not. If you don't want to take out for taxes, don't have to. And then you just pay the taxes next year. What I've always told viewers of this channel is to remember which one you do. So don't switch back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, because you'll never remember which one you did. Do it one way and only one way, and then keep it consistent. I had one viewer ask me about the $100 threshold from LWA. He said that when you don't take out for taxes, he was above the $100 threshold. That's something to consider. Finally, when you're done through this entire process that I just described for UI and PUA, and you're in weeks of March to July, you will get $600 on top of that for FPUC. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to apply for FPUC. You don't have to apply for the enhanced unemployment benefits of FPUC 1.0. It's automatically there. Money will come to you in a certain routing time. Those routing times have changed. When I first started, the routing times were, weeks, months, and you'll get the money. All right, so then you continue the process for LWA. You just certify for benefits again. And those weeks are after late July into August, now into September, and you continue to certify and certify and certify. The great news today is about LWA once again. LWA is now paying at least 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, and possibly 7 weeks. The reason we know is the following. The very first state that applied, Arizona, has now reported it has 6 weeks of payments and has paid 6 weeks of payments, times $300, $1,800, but has enough money to pay some part of 7 weeks, but doesn't know if it can make the 7th week and is going to figure it out and make a determination whether they're going to do it or not. We also know you're going to get at least 5 weeks. Gone is 3, gone is 4. We're now at 5. This is incredible, great news, because California, the last state to apply, literally almost, has confirmed that they have 5 weeks to pay. This week, we're going to be at week 7. So we're going to see if other states have that detail. But a new report out minutes ago is shocking, needless to say, that says the real unemployment rate is actually potentially over 11%. The U.S. unemployment rate fell to 8.4% in August from 10.2% in July, says CNBC. That number may understate the true rate, however. According to some economists, they think the unemployment rate is 11% when considering other factors. When the pandemic hit, we were at the lowest unemployment number since the Great Depression. But now, when the pandemic hit, we were at the worst employment number since the Great Depression, which is, 20-something consecutive weeks of unemployment claims new unemployment claims over 1 million. The unemployment rate is a measure of joblessness in the country and is roughly a barometer of financial hardship. A rate above 11% would mean the country remains in the throes of the worst period of joblessness in post-war World War II history. It would mean 1 in 9 people who want a job and are able to work can't find employment, reports CNBC. Prior to this, the worst time we ever saw something like this was 10.8% in 1982. So why is the number still not so clear? The reason why it's so not quite clear is that the benchmarks for calculating them are slightly different. The unemployment rate would have been about a 0.7% points higher had reported in August if a misclassification error had not occurred in the Bureau, reports a new report. This is important because unemployment is a gauge of stimulus. Michael Ferrer, an economist at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University, says one of the things many people seem to have missed is that the employment rate doesn't count people who aren't looking for work. Interesting. As you sit here today, it's important to understand that FPUC 2.0 is going to be debuted as potentially as early as or potentially before this video even uploads. This video is being recorded in the late afternoon, actually early afternoon, and by the time it uploads, it's Eastern Standard Time evening for some viewers. Mitch McConnell earlier today has represented that the second stimulus bill that he's to introduce this week will be introduced today, and so it's likely that bill could be introduced by the time that this video is already recorded, and in that we will see what FPUC 2.0 looks like. McConnell did confirm in a press statement this morning that enhanced unemployment benefits are in the bill. So there's no dispute about it. It's absolutely in the bill. We don't know anything about the specifics of it until the bill's debuted, but we have heard talk from the parties drafting it as to what's likely in it. First, we've been told that it will have benefits all the way to December 31st. 2, we've been told that it will go retroactive back to the date that FPUC 1.0 expired. 3, we're told that it will not double pay you for people who received LWA. That'll basically go on top of LWA. 4, we have been told that it would not carry that $100 threshold of LWA that a lot of viewers hate. FPUC 2.0 will not carry that $100 threshold that a lot of people worry about from LWA. But the most important thing is, how much is it? How much is it? And we simply just don't know. I've been reporting it's likely to land 400, it could land at 300, and it could land at 500. It's not going to land at 200, and it's not going to land at 600. I think that would be absolutely unprecedented and shocking if it was at 200 or 600. And there you go. How would you get FPUC 2.0? The same way you same way you get unemployment benefits as I started the video with. You have to be in the UI system, you have to be in the PUA system. You aren't running out of weeks yet. I have to say this very clearly. Boy, I have so many viewers that are saying, I went on unemployment in April. I'm about to run out of weeks. Hello? There's no way you're running out of weeks as you started unemployment in April or March. PUA, for example, has 30-something weeks. That's the first one. We're not at week 30 yet, folks. Come on. Next, UI has 3 time frames and extensions for UI benefits for people who start in March. I mean, that's basically going to carry you into almost next year. So I don't know why people are saying, I just started unemployment, I'm running out of weeks. No. You're just miscalculating it. First, you have your normal number of weeks. Then you have the FPUC add-on that adds additional weeks. If you don't know how many weeks it is, Google FPUC, look at how many weeks you show in your normal UI benefits. That's going to trigger right after that. Third, you have state-enhanced unemployment weeks. Most states have triggered a state right by Constitution to give you additional weeks of unemployment benefits. Those states have announced them just months ago. I mean, this is not something just started today. And so those are that's the second extension. So basically 3 timelines. First your normal UI, then your first extension, and then another extension. So you're not running out of benefits this week. It's as simple as that. Finally, if you have questions about something that you've not seen in this video, which I hope really encompassed all the elements, then what you need to do is try to drop a comment. I'll try to answer it. Mostly, if your comments or questions is, I haven't received the money yet, it's backed up, it's backlog, it's not coming through, I can't help you with something like that. There's literally no person that can help you with something like that that is online. The best resources for that, and I haven't said this in a while, are your state Senate Assembly people. Not the senators, not the people in Washington, but your state elected representatives. Those state assembly people have been working with people in their local jurisdictions to get them employment benefits faster for those that have been backed up for weeks and months. If you have a real big problem with not getting your money, that you've done everything and it's still not processed, that it's backlog, call your local state assembly people. For example, in California, those are the people in Sacramento. They're elected officials from your little town for your district 22 or 95 that are in your state legislature. That's their job. That's what they do. They actually have offices set up to deal exactly right with that. So if you're not receiving your benefits, you've done everything right, you know how to do it, you understand what's going on, then contact them. If there's anything else that you need to know, watch this video daily. I'm always updating something new, something fresh. And go to the front of the channel and hit the subscribe and alert button. That way you'll get an alert when a new video goes live, especially about FPUC. This video is every single day at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So if you have a question about UI, this is the video to be watching. Also, like the video because the video is informational and provides you information that helps so that it should appear higher in the rankings. Algorithm likes it. The algorithm of YouTube likes when the video is liked because it appears higher in the rankings. Coming up next is Rent. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay valid.